Hello, my name is Rohak and I'm the founder of EmpowerCode, an initiative promoting the intersection of technology and social activism in an effort to empower youth. In our previous videos, we created the HTML layout for our website, added semantic tags to increase readability, and integrated some forms and images to heighten the overall experience. But one thing was missing. We didn't have any styling or color in our page. So today, let's spice up the look of our site and learn CSS along the way. But what is CSS? Well, CSS, also known as Cascading Style Sheets, is a style sheet language used to describe the presentation of a document written in HTML. In other words, it's a styler for any HTML code or web page. So how does it all work? Well, CSS is usually done through an external style sheet. The external style sheet is a separate file and controls the styling of elements on separate HTML pages which link to it. Think of CSS like a paintbrush and HTML like a canvas. The paintbrush isn't directly located inside the canvas, but is used externally in order to create a beautiful piece of art. So, likewise, let's use our style sheet to beautify our page and really make it pop out. Let's get started. Now, the first thing we need to do to get started is create a style sheet of our own, where all our CSS code will be written. So, the way we do that is we go up to File, select New, and we come up with this Untitled page. But if we save this as stylesheet.css with the proper extension specified, then we get our very own style sheet, which you can use to link to our both HTML pages and style each of our pages individually. Now, CSS relies on two things to function: selectors and declarations. Selectors define the element being worked on, and declarations are located inside of curly braces, specifying what property changes are actually being made. For instance, on our website, if we wanted all our image tags to have a border color of cadet blue, we would simply do it like this. Alright, here we see the img tag, which is our selector and lies before our parentheses, and in the middle and between our parentheses, we see the border color property being assigned to a value of cadet blue. This is known as our declaration because we are declaring this property and assigning it to a specific value. Much like a key value pair in a dictionary, the border color property is now being assigned to the color or value of cadet blue. Let's add some more properties to our image tag and really make it look awesome. So first, let's set the style of our border and its width. Alright, now that the border is styled and its width has been set, we can now move on to the minimum and maximum widths of the image itself. So let's style these and see it in action. So here, as you can see, I have set the minimum and maximum width properties to 50 and 75% respectively, meaning that any image on our website has to be between these two values in order to qualify. Finally, I set an outline color for the image, which will really make it stand out amongst other elements on our pages. So now that we're all done with our image tags, let's go ahead and style all our H3 tags and really make them stand out on our homepage. So remember, I'm opening up with the tag that I want to change and modify, and then I'm specifying the parentheses. This is known as a general selector, and we'll continue to go in depth into this concept throughout this video. So stay tuned and keep watching. Alright, let's go over the changes that I've made. So the first thing you guys see is the margin property, and I've set this to 0 because I want to remove any extraneous white space around my header. The next two are the font family and font size, which are pretty self-explanatory. This is basically setting the style for my font and its size. Finally, I set the color of my header to a dark shade of blue. So now our image and H3 tags are all styled and ready to go. But how do we actually apply these changes to our HTML code? We simply link it in the head section of our code. We do this by using the link tag and specifying two attributes, the rel attribute and the href attribute. Rel speaks to the link relation or type, and href is the actual path of the style sheet. So, enough of me talking, let's go ahead and see this in action. Alright, now we have a link that links to our style sheet. But let's go one level deeper and see what's actually happening inside. So the rel attribute specifies that the link we are linking to is a style sheet, and our href is basically the path to our style sheet. Alright guys, now that we've linked up our style sheet to our HTML pages, you can clearly see the effect it has. Our images are bordered and outlined, and scrolling down to our headers, we also see that they are bolded and shaded in a dark color of blue. So this is what CSS is all about. It brings life to our pages and fills them with vibrance and color. Great, now our style sheet is linked up to our main homepage. Now, what if we wanted to customize the paragraphs on our main page? Well, looking at our screen, there is a slight problem. The paragraphs are located inside a div tag and cannot be accessed directly. So how do we do this? Well, we use what is called a Descendant Selector. A Descendant Selector is always organized in this basic format: the parent tag followed by a space and the child tag. So here, as you can see, our div is the parent tag and our p tag is the child tag. This allows for a hierarchical structure to be worked on in CSS. Now that we've accessed our paragraphs via a Descendant Selector, let's add some declarations. Alright, I've changed the font family of all our p tags to make them look professional. I've modified the padding property to remove all indentation and white space from all four sides of our paragraph. And finally, I've set the width of our paragraph to 100% so that it covers the full page. Looking at the bottom three properties in our Descendant Selector, we see that we've assigned the box sizing property to border box, which makes the padding and border included in the width and height. That way we don't have to worry about any extra white space when we are setting the width and height of our paragraph. Finally, we set our margin and padding to 0 to once again remove any extraneous white space that still might be hiding. Next, let's link our style sheet to our second page, the car gallery. Awesome, now let's customize the article semantic tag that we have on this page. So here, let's go ahead and use a Descendant Selector to access our h1 and p tag within our article tag. Now that we're looking at our h1 tag directly, it's time to add some declarations. So now we've set our header font family to monospace, we've outlined our header with the style of double, and finally we've aligned all our text within our header to the center. Finally, looking at the bottom two declarations within our Descendant Selector, we see that we've set the outline color and width for our h1 tag. Now, looking at our h1 tag, and this looks absolutely fantastic. Next, for our p tag, we want it to be clearly visible and attractive to the user or anyone who's looking at our page. Now we've matched its font family to that of our h1 tag, and we've increased its font size to make it stand out on our page. Finally, we removed all its white space from the top and aligned all the text to the center. Now, looking at our p tag, it clearly stands out in our car gallery page. Awesome, now we've covered general and descendant selectors. Remember, general selectors address all elements of a specific tag, and descendant selectors access all tags within another. But is there a way to style a specific tag without addressing all tags of the same type? How can we style only one tag on our webpage? Well, that's where CSS classes and class selectors come in. Classes are usually attached to one or two elements, and their selectors solely address those tags which have been tagged under the class. This allows for a customizable approach to styling and is one of the most common methods used by web developers. So how do we add a class to a tag? Well, in the initial tag, we add a class attribute. Let me show you. Now we have added a custom head style class to our h1 tag. With this, we can now individually style the h1 tag by specifying its class. Now let's add a custom class to our span tag. Awesome, now we've added our emphasis class to our span tag. Remember, you can name your classes anything you want. They just have to be within the tag you want to style. But how do these classes come into effect? Let's head over to our style sheet and see how. Here, to represent a class, we simply add a dot and the class name right after, like so. So for our emphasis class, we'd simply add a dot, then type out emphasis, and then go into our curly braces. This is what is called a class selector. Okay, for our emphasis selector, which relates to the span tag, we want to show, you guessed it, emphasis. Here we have set the color to a dark blue, have added the font family to make it match with our p tag and h1 tag, and finally we increased the font size to make it pop out on our page. For our last two selectors, we set our font weight to 600 because we want to make this bold in our page, and finally we just set the font style to normal to prevent it from being italicized. For our head style selector, which relates to the h1 tag, we want the header to match with the span text. So we simply do this by changing the font family to match that of the span tag. So here, as you guys can see, we have changed the font family to monospace. Now here, looking at our site, while we still do have some touching up to do on these headers, for now they look pretty good in terms of how they're formatted. Notice how we seek uniformity amongst our text and tags. We want to build a common theme around our web pages, and having similarity in our tags is the best way of doing that. Alright, that is all for this episode. I really hope you enjoyed this one and hopefully learned something new. In the next episode, we'll continue our styling, learn about inline and block level elements and the difference between the two. In addition, we'll be learning about CSS inheritance and selector specificity, two extremely important concepts to know. If you're excited, stay tuned and get ready. I'll see you in the next one, and thank you so much for watching. Take care.